another trip down memory lane. The title is Metaphysics. Returning to the University of Florida after leaving the Air Force in 1978, I majored in psychology, mainly because I wanted to better understand some of the crazy shit I had done the previous decade. Life-threatening substance abuse, marrying twice in haste, later repenting at leisure. I was dismayed to discover that psych majors at the U of F had to take at least one physical science course, likely involving math. But lo, the catalog offered a class called Physics for Poets. And I'd written a couple of poems once upon a time. I destroyed them soon thereafter for the good of humankind, but the prof didn't need to know that. As it turned out, he probably wouldn't have cared if I told him. And from the way he dragged himself into the classroom every session, the weary drone of his voice and his rolling eyes whenever any of us asked a question, I suspected he was teaching that class as penance for some departmental sin. Maybe he had hit on the dean's wife at a Christmas party, or turned her down when she hit on him. I wanted to ask, but the military had trained me to keep my mouth shut most of the time, and I wanted to get past the grade. The course material was tedious for me until we got to quantum indeterminacy and paradoxes, whereupon my interest picked up. I wondered if I had done at least some of the aforementioned crazy shit, because our brains are full of subatomic stuff, much of it occupying critical positions in our decision-making machinery. Since the behavior of stuff at that fundamental level is sometimes irrational by classical standards, that could partly explain why we're sometimes irrational. The Big Bang also fascinates me. Not much point in asking what happened before that cosmic event, because as far as any physicist can determine, there was no before that. And we needn't bother wondering what happens inside black holes, because that's yet another area of physics in which the word because has little or no apparent meaning. Apparent, I say, because maybe the word still means something to God if you believe in him or her or it. And even if you don't. Not necessarily a personal deity, but maybe the kind Einstein said he believed in, which was akin to Spinoza's conceptualization, impersonal and infinite, governed as well as governing by its self-created law. Then there was Stephen Hawking's appraisal. Thus it seems Einstein was doubly wrong when he said, God does not play dice. Not only does God definitely play dice, but he sometimes confuses us by throwing them where they can't be seen. Such metaphysical pronouncements prompted me to think about the traditional concept of God, something I hadn't done in years. Revisiting that, I could see that the concept involves inherent contradictions even more surely than modern physics involves breakdowns in causation. Even putting aside the question of how and why a perfectly good and loving God would allow evil and suffering, the attribute of omnipotence is logically problematic in itself. An all-powerful being could exist and not exist at the same time. If time even has meaning for such a being, if it couldn't do that contradictory thing, then it wouldn't be omnipotent, by the very definition of the word. Not saying I believe that proves anything about the traditional God any more than the conundrums of quantum physics prove anything about Einstein's God or Hawking's. I'm just saying that once you start talking about all-powerful deities, you're contradicting yourself if you try to limit their attributes or choices in any way. I've never been sure where to go from there, either thought-wise or thought-foolish, but that enduring uncertainty has paradoxically reassured me ever since. A Zen treatment for existential angst. Occasionally refilling my mind with that conceptual emptiness served me especially well during my first job in what I like to call the Priz Biz. The name of the joint was, and still is, the North Florida Evaluation and Treatment Center near Gainesville. In an earlier era, it would have been called an institution for the criminally insane. I thought of it as a containment vessel for dire psychic energies and myself as one of the control rods that kept it from melting down, a focal point of cosmic calm and potential chaos. Working there gave me more perspective on my own crazy shit as did the other places I worked during my career. I'm happy to report that I've been mostly clean and sober for the past 40 plus years, ever since I came to Arizona and married a woman I'd known for nearly a decade. The third time must have been the charm. Not only is she still my wife and the love of my life, she's still my best friend. We call it quantum entanglement.